Sooners are wrapping up their season this morning at the Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth, Texas. That's where we find Good Day Oklahoma sports reporters TJ Eckert and Colby Daniels with a preview of today's matchup.
For the final time, we're talking Armed Forces Bowl. OU taking on Navy in just a matter of hours now, Colby. I'm curious what you think are going to be the big keys for the Sooners in this one today, in a game that, as we mentioned yesterday, not many people were talking about the game and the matchup. It was more so next season, but now we got to talk about the game.
Finally, it's here, right? I mean, everything has been about the offensive coordinator and the quarterback and the transfer portal, who's staying, who's going. Finally, we get football, which isn't a guarantee anymore. But this is such a fun matchup because you have one of the blue bloods of college football that, you know, is all about like five-star recruits, and then you have Navy, who, you know, everybody has a soft spot for the service academies and what they represent and how they represent their country in college football. And they're not a bunch of five-star blue chip players that are going to the NFL. So the contrasting, I think, personnel on top of the contrasting styles with Oklahoma and, you know, I think a variety of different ways they can play football, and Navy doing it old school in a way that you don't really see on a week-to-week basis. I think this matchup is awesome.
Brian Newberry is an Oklahoma City guy, graduated from Westmore. Navy has a chance to win 10 games this year. So normally in these types of bowl games, you're looking for motivation. There's plenty of it on the Navy side. What is the motivation on the OU side? Is there not to have a losing season? I mean, is that the biggest?
I would say the first part has to be all of the young players who are getting opportunities, right, to maybe advance their chances of becoming a key member of this team next year. But for Brent Venables and this coaching staff, I mean, it has to be finishing with a winning record, right? I know that he talks about that not being super important, but the reality is this century Oklahoma has one losing record, and it was under Brent Venables. You don't want to do it for a second time in 3 years. You know, I don't think it necessarily means that they can't accomplish big things next season, but it definitely paints a bad picture for what the Brent Venables era has been to this point.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see what this looks like later on today. Michael Hawkins getting an opportunity to start. Good for him. I loved his comments in the lead up to the game, basically saying like, hey, I don't care who transfers in, bring it on, I love the competition. So I like seeing guys like that have success. Looking forward to seeing him play well. The defense getting an interesting test. That'll be another one to keep an eye on too. Triple option is tough, man. I'll be curious to see what ends up happening. Those are my two keys, though, is OU facing that tough triple option offense from Navy, and then looking at Michael Hawkins finally getting to start after he got benched early in the year.
He's a playmaker, right? I mean, we saw that in the second half of the Tennessee game. We saw that in the Auburn game. And then I think, you know, people started to get an idea of what he was about. They were able to game plan for him, and maybe the freshman nerves started to show up a little bit, but he's had some time to get over that hump. He's had some time to be the starting quarterback now since the regular season ended for this matchup, at least, and maybe take a little bit more ownership of this team without maybe the pressure of the SEC schedule. So I'm excited to see what type of playmaker he's going to be and you know, how he takes care of the football. And defensively, I mean, it doesn't get any better than having to defend the triple option for a bunch of blue chip defensive players that Brent Venables has brought in. You know, they're going to have to play very disciplined football, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Back on Hawkins, Venables made the line in the press conference saying that the more you play, the better you get. So we'll see what that looks like for him coming up later on today. We'll have a full recap for you coming up after the game as well, so looking forward to that here in a few hours.
Thanks, guys. A reminder that game kicking off at 11 this morning. You can catch it on ESPN.